Hello everybody and welcome to Dragon's Demise here at WashingCon 2018. We're here with Matthew O'Malley, co-designer of the new, dare I call it a phenomenon, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and also one of the featured designers here at WashingCon. So we're going to sit down for one of our Jenga interviews. Just a quick reminder, it's been a while since we've done one of these, so we've got 3 different colors of blocks. We've got blue for games that he's designed, work that he's done, red for sort of his experiences in the game design industry, and then green is a wild card in which I will probably ask him about donuts, because that's what we do here on Dragon's Demise. So Matthew, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, thank you for having me here.
Of course, and would you like to do the inaugural block push?
Yes.
Turn? I don't know what we call these.
There's no question about that. We're gonna go green first.
Okay, all right, green.
There we are.
And don't forget to put it on top.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, I let in with it, so now I have to ask it. You're a resident of DC area, and we typically ask people what their favorite donut is. But instead of that, I'm gonna ask you what your favorite donut shop is.
Oh.
And then go there on your recommendation.
That's my favorite donut shop is actually a pastry shop that's in New Jersey.
Okay.
So
it's a bit of a trek, but I can get there.
That's a bit of a trek.
I'll take a bus. It'll be fine.
Local, right around the corner. There's a Dunkin' Donuts that's 3 blocks away from my house. So
okay.
That would be the place we go.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Gets the job done. All right, I'll start us off with a blue. So, as we mentioned, you are a co-designer of the new game Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which is a mashup of Between Two Cities, a game which you previously worked on, and Castles of Mad King Ludwig, a game which you previously did not. So, what was that like, taking a game and a format that you had sort of been responsible for and created, and combining it with elements that were new? How did that design process unfold?
So, we originally had, we've been working for a while with the Between Two idea, and we did the Between Two Cities, did an expansion for that, and felt like that was a full and complete game, and didn't see very much more space for that to go.
Sure.
So then we had a whole bunch of other ideas of games that we could play with that same style of play, that same partnership style. So we talked to Jamie about, Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games.
Right, of course.
About whether he was interested in publishing another Between Two games. And he said, yes, as long as it's good.
That's probably an important caveat.
Yeah. And so we tried a whole bunch of different things, and a whole lot of things didn't work.
Sure.
And eventually came up with the idea of castles, and sort of early on in that design process turned it into building the side view of a castle, which is not something that either of those games, the original games, Castles of Mad King Ludwig or Between Two Cities has. But then Ben actually had the idea of, because we were building castles, the number of different tile types that we had and the number of interesting adjacency scoring that was what we needed made a lot of sense with Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Right, sort of the mechanics that were already inherent in that game.
Exactly. And one of Jamie's favorite games is Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Okay. So you knew how to get right
so
to
we kind of, so we knew that was probably going to be successful.
Sure.
And then it was really a question of getting Ted Alsbach from Bezier Games to also buy in.
Right.
Which he did, and so we were able to do it all together. That was fantastic.
There we go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I believe it's your
Oh, it is my turn. Well, I guess we haven't done a red yet. So
we have not done a red yet.
Ooh, look, that would kind of move them all. So would that. There
all
we
right,
go.
There we go. We got one.
Of course, it's coming out the other side.
There you go. All right, safety. So you mentioned Ben, who is of course Ben Rossett, your co-designer on this and many of your previous games.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we asked Ben when we sat down with him at Origins is, what's it like to have, a very stable partnership in terms of how you approach your game design? not a lot of people do that. Some people prefer to work alone.
Right.
How do you find that impacts your work?
So it's absolutely fantastic for me. I am not a full-time game designer.
Okay.
This is. I would love to do that at some point, but it's a good paying hobby. And what I find, not only is it just great to work with Ben, because he's an awesome guy and a fantastic designer,
right?
And I really enjoy working with him. But the other thing that I find fantastic about working really consistently with a partner is that you continue pushing each other to keep going.
Sure, yeah.
It's really easy when you're just doing something on your own to decide, oh, well, today I'd rather go on a hike. Or no, today we'll just hang out and play some games and do something else, or
right.
Or
so
whatever.
There's an accountability mechanism there.
There is a little bit of accountability to each other.
Yeah.
And I think that drives us to accomplish more than we might otherwise.
Okay.
And we're always checking in with each other to make sure that we're both still at the same level of trying to maintain the same level of involvement in the industry and
right.
in advancing, because we don't want to be pushing each other too much.
Right. Yeah, because then you'll get burnt out. And
or just annoyed at each other. But it's been really fantastic to make sure that we keep going and that we continue trying to get more games published and continue working on these games. And
good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right, I'm going to go ahead and actually go in for a follow-up question. So you mentioned a little bit about the actual gameplay of Between Two Castles, and you mentioned that it's sort of a side view, almost like a cross-section of a castle, as opposed to the top-down view that's sort of more familiar to players. And that opens up a lot of new opportunities for how you construct. So I was watching you demo it a little bit earlier, and there is much more of you're working towards a peak, and you can't place things on top of other things. So how did that, almost those constraints, influence the way you approach the design?
Let's see. So Between Two Cities had these built-in constraints from the beginning where you can only build out to a 4x4 square.
Right.
Which was really important for those scoring mechanisms.
Okay.
If, for example, the factories and the houses can't be next to one another.
Right.
If you don't have to build within a constrained space,
that wouldn't be any
then
problem.
It doesn't matter. You can always put something away from the thing that it doesn't want to be next to.
Right.
And that is actually something we were trying to put some things in that didn't want to be next to something else. Like I think it's activity rooms in Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Yeah, they have like negative adjacency penalties, I suppose.
Right. And the reason that still works in Castles of Mad King Ludwig is because you're trying to complete all of the rooms. You're trying to get things around all of the sides in order to get the bonus.
Right, exactly.
Right. And the bonuses come in a different way for Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. So, it having negative ways that you would score negatively if you place certain things next to one another just doesn't work in Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Okay.
Because you have totally free choice.
Right. So you
place
can just
anywhere.
place it over here.
You just place something out of the way, it would be the same issue as if we didn't have the 4x4 square.
Right.
So since we didn't want to limit that, we really wanted players to be able to build any shaped castle that they wanted.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the fun of the crazy castles. And
right. It gets all spidery and all over the place.
You may have one that's this huge tower that's stretching up into the sky, and you may have one that's just full of dungeons, and then you've got one that's just all gardens and going out all over the place.
Right.
And wanting that to be a key part of play led to a lot of the choices we made in the scoring mechanisms for the rooms. So we've got some of the rooms that want to be surrounded on all sides.
Okay.
you know. But if you had everything like that, then you would just try to build a box.
You build a box, exactly.
Yeah. And so we've got some that want to have things just on the sides, or some that just want to have things above and below, or some that want to have something in a column. Then there are some others, bedrooms, sleeping rooms, that they don't care what they're next to. And it's important to have some of those because some of the other rooms want bedrooms to be next to them.
Okay.
So you want to be able to have some freedom of placement with some of the rooms, but in addition, the bonus for bedrooms is the tower.
Okay.
If you place a whole lot of bedrooms in a column, building up, not next to anything else,
Okay.
then you can put a tower on top.
Which gets you additional points.
Which gets you additional points at the end because that's what that particular bonus is. So you can, a lot of the choices in that will determine the shape of castle that you want to build.
Right.
But there's a lot of different levels. It's not only the scoring of the individual rooms and the scoring of what those rooms might want to be next to. It's also the bonuses that you might be going for.
Right.
And so on.
Interesting. But it's sort of a different approach to a similar problem. And
Right.
sort of how do you put creative constraints on the player?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You said it much better than I did.
I just said it shorter. That's
Right,
all I
right.
did. I think, let's see, that was my block, so I think you're up.
Oh, okay.
Where are we going? We'll look stable.
Where are we going? I just had a lot of trouble with reds, so I'm gonna do a green here.
All right, green's pretty safe. Oh, that's not bad.
That one
you
feels
go.
very tight.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, WashingCon, sort of Washington area board game convention. We mentioned that you're a local resident. How does it feel to be a part of this community? Sort of be involved at this level and sort of be plugged in, essentially, to all the things that are going on here.
This is a great board game community around the DC area. We have a couple of designer groups that regularly meet up to play test.
Great.
There is Table Treasure Games that meets up once a month. There's Break My Games.
Yes, I've heard.
Yep. And there's of course Labyrinth, the
Premier game store.
Which is fantastic. And there's a lot of other game stores in the area as well. The designers are all extremely welcoming. They're very happy to talk with you and to help you figure out your way through things. And we have Unpub. The big Unpub convention is just outside Baltimore. And that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Having that around here. And then WashingCon recently, for the last few years now.
Right, yeah, 4 years.
Yeah. Unpub I think is going on 9 years.
Okay, wow, yeah,
The main Unpub convention.
and that's such an interesting aspect of game design, right? Is that it's not something that consumers typically think about. They're just looking at finished games, what they can purchase on Amazon, what they can purchase in a brick and mortar.
Yep.
So the opportunity to have something that just highlights that community, I think is really great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Good deal. All right, I've got this triple red down here that's just calling my name.
Okay. I know which one I'm going to do next.
Yeah, that would pretty loosey-goosey there. So throughout your career, you have designed games for other companies. You've designed games that you've published through your own company, Black Oak. And how, I obviously don't want you to sort of dish on any particular company, but do you find that there's an extra degree of freedom in sort of publishing your own work that you appreciate, or is it maybe, is it nice to work with a third-party publisher? Just sort of, how do you fall on that?
Sure. I love both.
Okay.
Which is why I'm doing both.
Makes
Although
sense.
I actually prefer working with third-party publishers.
Okay.
The publishing on my own is something that I took on because I could not find a publisher for this game, not DICE,
Right.
that I had been working on for 5 years, and was the thing that brought me into the industry.
Okay.
And I really wanted to get it published. I felt like it could do well. Whenever I took it to Unpub or anything like that, it got a lot of interest. The problem was the cost to manufacture it.
Sure. Well, because those dice are very, very particular.
They're very nice.
They are very nice. They're gorgeous.
They're very particular, yes. Well, the real issue is that design goes all the way to the edge of the faces.
Oh, okay.
And dice manufacturers don't do that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that took many years to find a manufacturer willing to do that.
Interesting.
But that is why I am self-publishing, because that one thing is something that I can make a profit at, and then I care enough about that I want to spend my time doing it.
Sure.
But I'm not sure that it would necessarily make enough of a profit in a retail distribution model
Okay.
to be worth it to another publisher.
Right.
But that's done quite well for me, actually, financially.
Which is wonderful.
Which is fantastic, and it is why I'm continuing to do that. As far as the time that I'm spending, I prefer the time that I spend working for other publishers.
Okay.
Because I love working with other people. I'm doing that with Ben all the time. I love getting feedback from the publishers. They help to make the games better as well.
Right. Well, because they've seen things come through and they know what works, what doesn't.
Exactly. And I don't have to go to a convention and always be at a booth. And like I would if I were only publishing for myself.
Right, and self-promoting and very much putting yourself out there.
There's a huge amount of work that the publishers do that is wonderful. And I'm glad that they are doing it.
Greatly appreciated.
Yes, very much so.
Great.
So I love working with other publishers, and honestly, there are a lot of people who want to do their own games, who want to do Kickstarter, who want to publish themselves, who want to publish. I think that I got really lucky by having a couple of my games published by other publishers first, before I wound up doing my Kickstarter.
Okay.
Because I got to see the whole process of development of a game.
Sure, and it just gave you that observation and
other
experience.
feedback and the rest of that, which was just a huge learning curve, a learning jump, basically, that is very difficult for people when they're just going to do a Kickstarter from scratch.
They have no idea what to
through
expect.
the production process. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, good insight. Well, that one's calling your name.
It is. I guess I have to. Yeah. Oh,
Boom.
look,
Easy
there we
peasy.
go.
Like nothing to it. So, not dice. Gorgeous game. Really, almost unique game. You also, I believe, have recently designed an app for that game, or
Not
did
exactly.
I
Not
read that wrong.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So I first designed an app.
Okay.
And that was, I put that out on iPhone and Android many, many years ago. I don't even know if it's still in the App Store.
Okay.
I think that, so that whole process of designing, I first designed the app as a puzzle game, a single player puzzle game, and didn't have any idea how to sell it.
Sure.
Didn't have any idea how to market it on the App Store. I didn't have any idea. I spent the money to have a developer, put it all together, and then I put it on the App Store. Lost a lot of money.
Sure.
But I still just loved the experience of doing it, and I wanted something tangible out of that.
Right.
Which took me to a flat puzzle using the same Celtic knot designs.
Okay.
That were connecting to one another, and so there was a flat puzzle idea. And then I took those pieces and put them on the sides of cubes, and since they were cubes, they needed to be dice.
Right.
And since they were dice, they needed to be games.
So it's just sort of this rabbit hole almost of
Exactly.
one from the other. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had this whole question in mind about how, what has it been like converting that game, but I totally had that backwards.
It went the other way around.
It went the other way around,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
equally interesting. So there we go. All right.
It's your turn.
I believe it is. All right. How safe are you? Okay. Oh, you're fine.
No problem.
You're fine.
Look at that.
Okay. I am going to ambush you a little bit
Okay.
with this one here. Game that we haven't talked about yet. Battle of Wits.
Yeah.
Which is a Princess Bride game, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I saw that was on your credits, and I said, there's no way I'm not asking him about this.
Okay.
And that one is a bit of a bluffing game. It's, as I understand it, almost sort of the showdown between the Man in Black and Vicini.
Yep.
And how, obviously, the sort of person-to-person element, bluffing, almost social-esque, how does that differ from a more, I suppose you could say, mechanically focused game like Between Two Cities?
So the way that have you played Battle of Wits?
I have not. I just saw it on your design credits. I apologize.
Yeah. So the way that I designed it was actually relatively mechanically focused.
Okay.
There is definitely some bluffing going on, but it's more you have a hand of cards in your hand, and everybody has the same hand of cards, and then there's one Sicilian card that everybody has, which is sort of a different card, and it allows you to cheat.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course.
Sicilian. Yeah.
Of course. But what you're doing with those cards is either playing them in the cup as contents of the goblet, which is either poison or wine.
Right.
Or you're playing them underneath a goblet to bid to be the player to drink that cup at the end of the game.
Okay.
And it actually plays a whole lot of players.
Interesting.
You play up to 10 players.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I have always been in favor of large group games.
Sure.
Between two cities.
Right.
It goes up to
Which is
7
fantastic. It's a great number.
Yep. But the bluffing is about more, did I put poison into this cup and is this a low bidding number? Or did I put wine into this cup and this is a high bidding number? And am I trying to get you to overbid me so that you drink the poison one?
Interesting.
And so on and so forth.
Okay. So very much a call my bluff type of situation.
Yeah. So I have tried to work on a few social bluffing games, but they tend to be more mechanically focused, even when they are social games.
Sure, and that just is a byproduct of sort of how the design process works. You find something to focus on in terms of a mechanic that you find works or find interesting, and then it builds out from there.
Yeah, and I think it's something that Ben and I both try and do. That was before I started working with Ben.
Right.
But with Between Two Cities, it's great that it plays a large number of people. Most games that play large numbers of people are party games. And so we were looking for more of a game just like other strategy games.
A more traditional game, you might say.
But we still wanted to be able to play it with a lot of players.
Okay. Well, and we're very glad you did, because that's one of our favorite games if we've got a slightly larger than normal party, is to bust out Between Two Cities.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, we love that. Well, I think we've got time for one more question.
Okay.
And it's your go.
It is.
So, how do you wanna finish this?
We have to go with a wild card.
All right, I like it. But which
we
one?
have to go with a
also,
dangerous
you
one.
could even just grab maybe this one right here and just tumble the whole thing.
Is that? Or I could get this one right here and it won't tumble the whole thing, right?
Which would be quite impressive.
Wouldn't it?
I'd probably call you magic at that point.
I think it's going to tumble the whole thing.
I think it is.
But it'll tumble it into your lap.
Right, which is
the
then my
idea.
problem, yeah.
There we go.
Hey, Jenga! All right. Green wild card. So you're a game designer. You play a lot of games. You design a lot of games. You interact with games. What would you say is your favorite game that you yourself were not involved in?
That would be Pandemic.
Okay. Classic.
Yep.
Hard to go wrong with Pandemic.
Relatively easy choice.
Bam. Look at this.
Yep. My family loves to play cooperative games.
Okay.
And I love introducing people to Pandemic, and it's just it hits a great sweet spot where introductory gamers can play it and have no problem grasping it.
Right.
And so cooperative games is something that I talk to a lot with Ben, because I don't think he's that interested in designing cooperative games.
I have noticed, and there's not really any in his oeuvre.
I keep trying to convince him to, because I think that he has a great sense about cooperative games. There are certain things that he can see in those kind of games. So he doesn't want something where everybody has totally free social conversations.
Communication,
but that you still have phases where you're interacting with one another. So between two cities,
right?
You know.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's a bunch of other games. Spirit Island. Gloomhaven. I don't know if Ben would say that, but I would say that there's still plenty of personal choice, as well as player interaction,
very
cooperative work, and that is Ben's core love in cooperative games, is that they have personal choice.
Right.
That you can't have the alpha gamer situation.
We're all very familiar with that.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Matthew O'Malley, for joining us.
All right.
This has been our first, actually, Jenga interview of the weekend here at WashingCon 2018. So stay tuned for more videos like this one. And thank you again for joining us.
Cool. Thank you.